Warning, F-bombs are armed and will inevitably be dropped. This is a premiere to make up for the fact that I cannot live stream this week. I hope to be able to monitor the chat when it premieres. Wish me luck. I want to start by saying, I would say Happy Memorial Day, except there's really no such thing. Right? Memorial Day is not a 3-day weekend. It is a day set aside. Memorial Day specifically is a day set aside to honor those that died in their nation's service. The best way you can celebrate Memorial Day is to place a flag on a veteran's grave. The worst way you can celebrate Memorial Day is to say, enjoy your 3-day weekend. Now, I'm going to drop the subject there because I will say things that I actually don't regret. And I know because this is the third try. But those of you that have said, enjoy your 3-day weekend, I'm glad and I'm happy for you that you're so happy taking Tehran's money. All right. I'm going to move on to the next subject. Assault weapons has one definition that can actually be scientifically supported over the entirety of its existence. Now, I've got another video that's going to be premiering in a couple of days. I'm pretty sure YouTube is going to take it down. I don't care, right? Because it'll be up on BitChute in full 30, actually before it premieres on YouTube by about 20 minutes. Because fuck you too, Susan. For those of you that do regularly tune into my live streams, you'll know that one of them got shut down. So about a month ago, I think it was this time last month, because I tried to show a couple of weapons to compare what is versus what is not, or show what is not an assault weapon, and specifically the SKS, which cannot be an assault weapon by any definition. They shut it down because they don't like me. It's not the me, all right? It's the unrepentant Trump supporters. I hate the man's guts, but I'm never ever going to pretend that I didn't respect him. Unlike Creepy Joe, who still does not really understand what's going on around him, or his actual boss, who seems to think that this was a 3-day weekend and nothing more. I said I wasn't going to regret it. Or Donnie's predecessor, who I won't even say the man's name. All right? None of this is about race. I don't give a fuck. All right? White, black, Asian, Polynesian, Australian, Native American, South American. We are all equally fucking worthless. That's it. I don't care what your history is. We are all equally fucking worthless. That is the way I've been for the last 20 years. And I'm not even going to apologize for that. I am just as equally fucking worthless as any of you, by the way. All right? If I died right now, you know who'd notice? Papa Carrot. You know why? Because he'd have a dead body in his house. That's it. That's all the more I'm worth to the universe. Bible says, a sparrow does not fall from the sky, but God notices it, except when it comes to humans. Right? A dog dies, God cries. A cat dies, God cries. A cow dies. God notices, cries probably a little bit. A human dies. What? Oh, what was that? That's all the more we're worth. Nobody will ever really care. And in 5 years, people probably won't even think about it. They'll only know if they were family. Race means less than nothing to me. Your character, however, means everything. And some of y'all have the character of uh, Hannibal Lecter. All right, I actually like Hannibal Lecter more than, well, basically anybody in Toronto's pocket. Um, that would be Antifa and BLM and the entire Democratic Party right now. Right? You don't have a character, you have a script. That's it. Hell, my own character leaves so much to be desired that I don't want to talk about it. But at least I am being honest about what I am. There you go. That's the difference between you and me, Antifa. I'm honest about what I am. Now, I will never stop bashing on the Iran thing. Iran is literally, the Iranian government, I should say, is literally Satan's church on earth. All right. COVID was not an accidental release from the Wuhan lab. It was not a deliberate release from the Wuhan lab. It was a deliberate release, and it was in or near the Wuhan lab. And the effects have been pretty clear. Did it do exactly what the people who released it intended it for it to do? I don't know. Maybe it was a misfire. Maybe it was a nuclear bomb when they meant to use a hand grenade. I have no idea. What I do know is that it did a lot of damage, but not nearly as much as it should have. On that same subject, I'm saying this as somebody who was really, really down for the 2 week. All right, 14 days to flatten the curve. Okay, I'm saying this as somebody who heard the words 14 days and said no, 2 months. This will take 2 months to blow over. We're coming up. We're well past year number 1, and we're coming up on year 1, month 2. And here we are talking, about how masks will become a seasonal thing. Here's a little bit of funny information. I can't wear a mask for more than about 20 minutes at a time. A lot of people can't. It leads to really, really stressful breathing. And I can feel it in my lungs, especially right around here, right? I cannot wear a mask that long. I have a job and I don't wear my mask for the full 2 hours until break time. I always kind of stick my finger in to try to open it up a little bit and get some more air in. Now, consider this, right? I actually did understand 2 weeks to flatten the curve actually meant 2 months to flatten the curve. And here we are a year later, and we're still supposedly flattening the curve? Who do you think you're kidding? It's your own supporters that are starting to call it out. Hell, one of the extremists is now calling it out. Why are they playing this game? Well, money and power. As long as they can keep you afraid, they can control you forever. Unfortunately, there were people like me right from the start who were saying, yeah, maybe not. People worse than me, who right from the start were saying, no, that's not real. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. for about a month or so, it was real. Then there are the people who are even now saying, you have to wear a mask, it's a mandate. There's no such thing as a mandate in the United States. It doesn't exist, right? Mandates, like the mask mandates, actually do violate the U.S. Constitution. I'm sorry, I don't remember where. I know the 10th Amendment covers a lot of it. And for those that are about to try and say necessary and proper or elastic clause, no. That does not cover this. A necessary and a proper clause only says that if there's something else that we are basing this necessary and proper on, then the necessary and proper clause covers it. Like on the play. I've had a lot of people tell me that mandatory carry is unconstitutional. Well, first of all, show me where in the Constitution it says it. It doesn't. I'm just putting it out there. It doesn't. And there is a clause in the Constitution that would make it constitutional. This is not an amendment, by the way. That would make it constitutional. It's in the first article, and I don't remember what section. And then necessary and proper can be invoked. Until mandatory carry is passed, necessary and proper isn't there, but it's already kind of there. All I would have to do is say one word as the President of the United States, and all of a sudden mandatory carry applies. So have fun, you want to be constitutional experts, hunting it down. I'm going to throw this out there. There are 4 people that might watch this video and might be following the Facebook page, might be following, well, 2 I know are, following the Instagram channel. If they ask, I will tell them. And I'll tell them the one word and the section. Papa Carrie knows what it is. So does my younger brother. And if she were here to defend herself, and this is one of the reasons she doesn't appear on camera, Fixed Bayonets would be shouting the words out right now. All right. Moving on. Yes, it is constitutional. But necessary and proper only applies if there is something else to build it on. It is not necessary and proper for the federal government to have to build a dam, for example, right? That's not necessary and proper. They don't have to build dams. There's no requirements. But if they make a decision that they need to control flooding or control drought or control something else that involves water, it then becomes necessary and proper for them to build a dam. That's how necessary and proper works, not whatever we want, whenever we want. So, the idea that mandatory carry is unconstitutional is just ridiculous. The idea that gun control is also constitutional, however, is just as ridiculous. The idea that mask mandates are constitutional is actually contrary to the Constitution. It's like somebody who can literally read 2 + 2 = 4 and say, no, it doesn't. It equals 5. Hat tip to Dave Cullen there. I know this is a highly unpopular opinion. The only gun control that I actually mostly support is the restriction, not ban, on automatic and continuous feed weapons, and not even all continuous feed at that. The original style Gatling guns, because of the practicality of refilling the hoppers, there's no point to trying to restrict that. It's an exercise in just pure self-abuse. At least as far as the continuous feed option goes. Why do I support any kind of controls? First of all, a restriction is not a ban. To get through the restriction, you would have to go through a couple of hoops. To give you an idea, though, I'm talking about one page, one piece of paper, one side of the paper, and on the back, in 12-point font, is the instructions of what you need to put in each particular line. And that's it. And a fee based on the actual cost of filing this paperwork, of working this, because it'll cost the federal government, let's say $12 an hour for somebody, or excuse me, $15 an hour for somebody to be sitting at a computer entering this information in, or reviewing it, or whatever it is they need to do to make sure that everything's perfectly squared away. And they can do 10 an hour. 15 divided by 10 is $1.50. Okay, so it's going to cost you $1.50. That's it. Second of all, why? Okay, I've always used this really simple analogy, and I get some very disturbing responses, to be honest with you. You are out and about doing something you have an absolute legal right to do in a place you have a legal right to be. Let's say you're shopping for your daughter's prom dress at the mall. You have no restriction on being at the mall. You're perfectly fine to be there. You're engaged in an activity you have a legal right to be engaged in. Okay, great, good. Somebody walks in and he starts shooting the place up. Well, he may be in a place he had a legal right to be, but he didn't have a legal right to be doing what he's doing. Maybe he doesn't like prom dresses. I don't know. All right? Maybe his ex-wife works there and he's actually trying to kill her, but anybody that gets in his way is also toast. Now here you are. You've got your gun, but it's a MAC-10. And it's a home-built MAC-10, so it only has an automatic option. You whip that thing out and you just open fire. You hit him, great, good for you, and for other people. The disturbing answers that I keep getting is, well, that's on him. Oh, no. All right? There is a concept of proportional response. And I goddamn guarantee you, if you're watching this, with maybe potentially one exception, and that's Mr. Guns and Gear, may someday see this because somebody told him I mentioned his name. I goddamn guarantee you, you can't fire that gun on automatic and hit what you aimed at. All right? The percentage of the population that can fire a gun on automatic and actually hit what they intended to hit is less than 1%. Now, there are those special forces operators out there. I've met a few. That's not saying anything special, people. If you are an average American, you've met at least one special forces operator and just didn't know it. I don't know. I may have met hundreds over my lifetime and just didn't know it. There are 3 that I know were because of circumstances where I was. Right? I was in the service at the time. And leave it at that. That's 1% of the population. And if you can actually hit the target that you were intending to hit, God bless you, go. Take that MAC-10 and use it appropriately with my personal blessing, right? The rest of us can't do that. I can't do that. I know I can't do that. I don't even try. The one time I fired an M16 on burst, I hit the target 8 times, I think, on a 30 round mag. Was it a 50 round mag? I don't remember now. I hit the target 8 times. I know there's only 8 holes in the silhouette, in the entire piece of paper. All right. I know exactly what was happening after that. I was shooting, and the gun was going back. I can't do that, and 99% of you can't do any better. In fact, I'm going to say about 75% of you would do worse, because you wouldn't be taking 2 seconds to think, shit, I'm missing. You just spray and pray, and God help anybody that got in the way. So yeah, I say that there's a restriction on automatics. And if you can't pass the test, you can't pass the test. Don't feel bad. Don't think I'm picking on you any more than I'm picking on myself. Just accept it is what it is. This isn't a reflection on your character. This is a reflection on the realities of the human body. Right? You want to blame somebody? You want me to pick on somebody? I'll pick on God. Because I would anyway. But I'm not blaming you. Right? I'm just accepting the fact that you're not one of those 1%. And neither am I. All right. The same applies to incendiaries. And incendiaries even more so, because even if you can hit the one thing you're aiming at, remember, there's a lot of other things around it that can be affected by the incendiary, even if it's clearly no touching, right? A flamethrower's heat can be felt up to off to the sides, is what I'm referring to here. I believe it's 3 yards away, 9 feet. I'm a 6 foot tall individual, right? I can lie down on the ground. You can aim right past my legs. My hair will be gone. Or, excuse me, right past my feet. And my hair will be gone. And I'll probably be very, very dead at that point. That's the reason that they work so well. That's exactly what they're designed to do. Explosives also. The kill radius for a fragmentation grenade is up to 5 meters. Injury is 15 meters. I forgot what that converts to in real measurements. Are you intending to kill the guy standing next to the hostage? Are you intending to kill the cashier who's trying to dive behind her counter? Are you intending to kill the mom who's out shopping with her daughter, who's standing right behind the gunman? I would hope not. I really would. Now, if you are one of those 1%, well, actually, even with grenades and flamethrowers, I doubt you can make that precise a shot. So just accept that it is what it is, right? Again, this is not a reflection on you. This is a reflection on physics only. All right. Memorial Day rant. The only restrictions I actually support rant. By the time you read this, the revisions to Dataslav that will prohibit anybody from asking about a maintenance exemption will be in. I admit I haven't gotten to it yet. This has been a very, very hectic week for me. And on the subject of hectic weeks, every time I go up to the lake house, it doesn't matter if I work all weekend or all week, or I work 2 hours one day and then spend the other 5 goofing off. It never fucking fails. We pull out of here. We get as far as Placerville or Weaverville or something, headed back towards reality, back to civilization, and we've heard that the world's blown up again. Every single time, the world's blown up again. Last time I was here, the time before that, Papa Carey was very generous and let me do a side trip. On the side trip, I learned about what was going on in Seattle. That's when I saw a guy standing at basically an intersection with an AK-47. Now, this was either the best airsoft lookalike I've ever heard of, right down to he did something to get rid of the orange tips, or this was an actual AK-47, and even from about 40, 50 feet away, I could tell it was a detachable magazine. This is Washington State. That gun had a detachable magazine. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's illegal. I know I have another mission planned up to Washington State about exactly what they've had to do to make their guns legal. Embarrassing. I have another mission to California related to what they had to do to make their guns legal. That's also embarrassing, but not as embarrassing as what Washington did, but that'll be another day. To make a gun Washington State compliant, the magazine cannot be removable. That he had a removable mag right then and there, or right there in the middle of the street. Now I'm up at the lake house again, and I'm wondering what the hell's going to happen when I get back to reality. Oh God, I know I won't make it back to Reno. I'm kind of afraid of how far am I going to get because I'm not going to make it through Shasta County before I realize something went absolutely haywire in the world. I'm kind of wondering what the hell it'll be this time. So if you're watching this video, hopefully you're ready by now. If you're not, do whatever you have to do, including borrow money from friends or family. Say that it's for auto repairs or something. Get body armor. Get the guns that I've talked so much about. AR-15, Glock 27, Glock 22. Get the 9mm drop-in mags. Drop-in barrels, excuse me. And get the camper trailer, right? You need to be able to leave whatever city you live in less than 15 minutes. Flag on the play. There's a couple of you I know are going to be watching this. One in particular in mind keeps getting screwed on land deals. You are probably the evacuation point. Tell you all the truth. My place is an evacuation point for a couple people. My place is also a warehouse on the edge of town, outside of Reno. That's not much of an evacuation point, to be honest. I have my own evacuation point. It's Papa Carey's place. The place I intend to have will be an evacuation point for a few other people. Hopefully, someday soon. Be ready to evacuate because you won't get the kind of notification that you expect. One night, you're going to go to sleep talking to your husband about your best friend's new man, or your wife is going to be talking about her best friend's new man. And the next morning, you're going to wake up and your next door neighbor's daughter is going to be at the foot of your rack. That is exactly how it's going to happen. Me being incommunicado for a week uh, means it's just that I'm already expecting. All right. My plan is to get to the next city over, check my cell phone, and see what the hell happened this week, and then plan accordingly. All right. The last time this happened, I actually could have just kept on going home. But because Papa Carey was taking a little bit of pity on me, I was able to make the side trip, and that's when I saw what had happened. Oh, right. The last time I was up here, I came I came home, and inside of city limits was a BLM riot. Yeah, that happened. Matter of fact, they burned my then. I was working as a security guard at the time. I had a site. It was it was such an awesome place. I loved being there, and they burned it to the ground. Damn. So I had to get reassigned. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't supposed to be there at the time. To be perfectly blunt, it wasn't the guys that were supposed to be there at the time because Molotov cocktails do not recognize property rights. Just saying. Um, be ready to evacuate with about 15 minutes notice. Drivers, get the heavy armor. Um, and if you can only get one set of body armor, drivers get it first. The driver has to focus on driving, and that means he can't move. A little bit about the history of body armor post American Civil War. Uh, Between the time of the American Civil War and the outbreak of World War I, body armor was extremely limited. Now, um, Crown Prince Ferdinand, Crown Prince Ferdinand, he had like 20 layers of silk shirts on. Well, today we understand that as Kevlar. The way Kevlar works is the way silk shirts work. His assassin got a spot where the silk shirts did not cover, and World War I began. Um, the Today we have, or during World War I, excuse me, they came out with a new generation of body armor. Uh, the one that I happen to know the most about was it's commonly referred to as the Grabenpanzer. It's German. I don't know what Graben means anyways, but Panzer means armor. It was just basically this big heavy metal plate with a couple segmented pieces down. Germans were not the only ones, but this is the one I'm most familiar with. It was not given to everyone. In fact, it was not even given to everyone in a specific type of billet or duty. It was literally watch gear for machine gunners because machine gunners were fixed positions. They weren't going to be able to duck and get out of the way of charging British and French soldiers. They had to stay there and keep shooting. So they were given this really heavy metal plate armor. They couldn't move. They couldn't get away. Your driver cannot get away. He's got to stay behind the wheel. That is, if he even tries to duck out of the way of bullets, you're going to wreck. Or at very least, you're going to have some problems. If it gets to that, the first person to get the armor is the driver. Everybody else could sink down into the car and get some degree of protection. I'm sorry about the fly people. Um, that's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to have to be. By the way, drivers do not have guns. Your weapon is that wheel in your hands. You need to focus on the weapon that you are operating. That's not a call to specifically target anybody. But if somebody is preventing you from staying alive because they're doing something they should be not doing, you stay alive first. Don't worry about them and the thing that they're doing that they should be not doing. You focus on keeping yourself and your friends or your family alive first. Front passenger. You've heard the term shotgun, meaning front passenger seat. Well, literally, that's what it is. It's the shotgun seat from the coach, stagecoach, and overland coach era. The guy up next to the driver had the shotgun to fight off would-be bandits or whoever would be trying to do whatever to the coach and the passengers. And of course, the passengers then were usually armed. To what degree varied by region significantly. But that first person up next to the driver was primarily responsible for protecting the stagecoach or the wagon or the whatever the hell it was. And that is your job as the front passenger, is to protect the driver to the best of your ability. Don't stick your hand out the window to shoot people. That's not going to work. If you need to go out one weekend and drive around in a mall's parking lot, just sort of pretend to be thinking about these sorts of things. You do what you got to do. Don't let me stop you. By the way, Suburbans are awesome for that. Just saying. All right. I am now going to move on to something that hopefully will take quite a while, because it is rather complicated. You can't see it on the screen, but the next section of Dataslav, exemptions, elective exemptions, excuse me, um, Title 6, Other Provisions, Section 5, exemptions, elective exemptions. I'm going to have the text down in the description. Conscientious objector. All right. I will never ever ask anybody to do something that they know is offensive to God. Right? That's with very, very specific exceptions. I would never ask you to do something that is offensive to God, and I would never ever ask you to kill if you believe that God will never forgive you for it. That's completely inappropriate. It's completely unacceptable, even by my fucked up standards. Why would I ask you to do it? Now, it's not a catch-all. You can't just say, oh, yep, I'm a conscientious objector. I'm exempt. You can't make me. No, no, no. Any person who applies for exemption is a conscientious objector, having established probable likelihood based on third-party sworn affidavit, may receive an exemption. Now, first of all, it does say may. That's because the judge can sit there and hear you as to what your objection is. And they may just say, no, I cannot suborn this. You're free to appeal. Third party sworn affidavit. That means under penalty of perjury, you swear or affirm that this person is exempt. Certain chaplains in general would be that third party. Psychiatrist would be that third party. Psychologist would be that third party. There's a lot of third parties that could cover this, but they are swearing under penalty of perjury that you are actually exemption. When I was in high school, I had to take U.S. Government. My instructor, I didn't know this until much later in the year, was a Vietnam veteran. He was a draftee on top of that. When he started teaching, he was still subject to UCMJ. He was given the U.S. government course because he had just got back from Vietnam. He did understand the government. With some training, he did understand the government, and he was that mind that says, okay, I accept that my government is a thing. Whether I like it or not, my government is a thing and I have to obey these rules. He had a student who did not. And Mr. L, I'm not going to throw him under a bus. Mr. L and this one student had some very long and apparently heated arguments in class over the subject. Right? After he told us about this, I thought, yeah, that didn't really happen. Well, yeah, it sure as hell did, because cops got called one time by another instructor. She was retired by the time I'm in high school, but she remembered that argument and had called the cops. Whoa. Okay. Mr. L actually said that yes, he signed a letter for this kid for a conscientious objectorship to the draft. Okay. Well, that's still a third party. He's also swearing under penalty of perjury, which means if he's lying, he goes to prison with you. That's an important thing to consider. About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, there I have this little critic who thinks he knows everything about everything on Earth. He had decided he knew more about mandatory carry than I did. How do you do that? So I gave him the then current copy of what would later be called Dataslav, and asked him, what's the easiest exemption to get? And he said, conscientious objector. No, it's not even close. Remember, if you lie on this, you go to prison. All right. The next one is personal exemption. Any person that, for reasons not listed above, may be exempt upon order of a competent jurist of their abode jurisdiction upon payment of a currently $300 per month fee. Such persons are total without exception. All right. For reasons not listed above, it's something that's not here. And maybe it's something that should be a mandatory exemption that I've never thought of. All right. They stand before the judge. They say, Your Honor, I want an exemption. I don't trust myself. Or I don't trust my next door neighbor. Or I've tried to shoot guns before and I always freak out. Maybe you're actually a psychological exemption, but nobody's going to be able to put this into writing so the judge can say, oh yeah, I get it now. You pay the $300 per month. $300 per month is not a typo, and it's actually very lowball. This is clearly actually a typo, but the other direction. It's high to make sure that you can't just use a personal exemption as a way of flaunting the law. Hey, I'm paying $20 a month, and I don't have to carry. I don't have to wear my seatbelt. I don't have to have a fire extinguisher in my house. Find me any other law anywhere that says you have to have this or do that you can buy your way out of. Go ahead. Take your time. Any person exempt under these sections are totally exempt and may not carry any weapons under any circumstances. Now, this is an all or nothing deal. Conscientious objector, you might be able to get some back. You might be able to say, well, yes, but I'm a 5-star chef. And the judge can sit there and say, okay, you can continue to have your knives and your forks and your flamey things, but you keep them locked up. And you take them out when you're working. When you're not working, you're going to go to the head and take a leak. You lock your knives up. You're prepping something that doesn't have anything to do with your cleaver stays locked up. The judge can actually say, yes, and these are your rules. I don't care. You're the one with the exemption, not me. Right. And you literally asked for it, so don't cry about getting it. Categories of exemptions. Total restriction. A person under a total restriction may not possess any items identifiable for use as a weapon. It's not just guns. Pepper spray. It's brass knuckles. It's too many keys on your ring. It's a fob on your key ring. It's anything. And the police officer does not have to justify taking it in the street. He may have to turn around and justify keeping it before the judge. Partial restriction. A person under partial restriction may not possess any weapon of a certain characteristic as ordered by a competent jurist, such as firearm, edge, blunt, chemical, etc. My personal history, if a judge were to say, I forbid you to carry chemical weapons, like pepper spray, they might have a case. Now, I'll appeal it because I know that every time I've done anything with pepper spray, it was justifiable later. If it wasn't, I would have been in jail that night. But I also know that I'm maybe a little too casual with my pepper spray because it's not deadly. It doesn't occur to me that it's serious, or it doesn't occur to me as strongly as pulling a gun out. For those of you that know the uh, popped up like a piece of toast story, what I didn't tell the cops that night is, yeah, I did have a gun on me. I don't know how they didn't notice. I really don't. Maybe they were so focused on the fact that I had the pepper spray that they didn't want to notice. Or maybe they were just distracted by the pepper spray. I don't know. Maybe they were distracted by the one bouncer saying the guy had a knife that I didn't see. Why did you spray this guy? Because I saw him shrug his shoulders. What about the knife? Oh, I couldn't have seen the knife. I was standing behind John. Yeah, I could have escalated that a whole lot. I chose not to. General restriction. Restrictions to a general category of capability such as deadly or ranged. Right. The judge may say, you know what? I don't think you should carry a gun, but maybe something lesser. So I'm invoking a restriction on, or a ban, an exemption, on your possession of a firearm. Oh, you know what? I'm going to toss anything deadly on that. But you know what? You don't have. I don't see a problem with you carrying pepper spray. I don't see a problem with you carrying around brass knuckles because I know this from a firsthand experience. To beat somebody with brass knuckles badly enough to kill them, you really got to mean it. All right? Or I don't see a reason to ban you from carrying an overly large key ring. Selective restriction. Restrictions to specific types of weapons only. Knives, pepper spray, etc. Okay, I use knives as an example because there is a certain now divorced couple who were a little too casual with their use of knives in circumstances they shouldn't have been playing with knives. They were playing with knives as part of their foreplay. Right? It's as simple as that. And this is a couple that you would know their names. Um, that's not an appropriate use of knives. Now, first of all, selective restriction will probably be selective or total, will probably be the overwhelming majority of exemptions. Um, Second of all, especially with regards to selective restrictions, excuse me, um, it probably won't be an issue unless somebody brings it up. My use of pepper spray, right? I'm not going to bring it up to the judge because I know what I did, I know why I did it, and I know I can defend my actions in court. It's as simple as that. If I couldn't have, I would have been in jail that night. The cops themselves were like, yeah, okay. You didn't see the knife. Well, that's fine. You saw the guy getting ready to take a swing at one of the employees and one of the legitimate patrons, so no big deal there. Oh, he may have had a knife? Oh, that made it worse, didn't it? Um, this couple that I speak of, because they had a tendency to play with knives, if they had an accident one night, one of them ended up in the ER getting stitches or worse, judge might come down as in a contested or potentially contested exemption hearing and say, you know what? No. You two don't need knives anymore. He was in the ER getting stitched up for 6 hours. He was in intensive care for another 3 days. You two don't need to be playing you don't need to be playing with knives anymore. And his own admission of the events was he plays with the knives too. He doesn't need to be playing with knives anymore. Hand them over. And that's probably the way it will really be playing out in the long run. Conscientious objector is not a silver bullet, right? It will not get you out just because I said I am, right? Um, you really want out because you say you're out? Pay the $300 a month or more, and just accept the fact that you did that to yourself. Excuse me a second. The lake house has ants. Ants from Fallout 2, I swear to God. Um, you're not going to get out of it just because you said you are. All right? You want out just because you said you are? Just because you think you're special? Fine. Pay the $300 a month and you're special. Even at that, the judge can step it back and say, wait a second. Yeah, you're paying the $300 a month. I don't like your attitude. And it can really boil down to that. The judge just didn't like your attitude in the courtroom and said, you know what? I'm going to give you an elective exemption for firearms only. If you are in possession of something that you have an exemption for, it's also the same as not having it when you didn't have the exemption. And it's not the way to felony out. Nice try. There's only one way to felony out under Datislav, and that's to be a professional who used the terms assault weapon or related terms illegally. That's the only way to felony out. And if you want to go there, go right ahead. Any person under deadly weapons exemption may not possess any item determined to be a deadly weapon except in immediate labor or case. Said weapon or said case must have a locking mechanism in operating order. Any person under exemption against deadly weapons may not possess firearms under any conditions. Again, you're that 5-star chef. You need your knives to do your job, but you're a conscientious objector, you're going to have to deal with that. And the judge may say no. You're going to have to deal with that too. You're free to appeal if you so choose. Exempt locations. Persons other than employees in the following locations are exempt. Airport. Any person other than airport employees shall not possess any weapons in an airport. Said weapons may be checked into their baggage only as provided under federal law. Law enforcement personnel not traveling on agency business in custody of a suspect or other person of interest are included in this restriction. Airports, airlines, states, and municipalities may not establish additional restrictions. Airport and airline employees are required to carry a handgun while on duty except as provided under conditional exemptions. Okay, this is one of the few places where it gets that specific. You are a waitress at the airport bar, you have to have a handgun on you. It's as simple as that. You can conceal carry it. You can do a lot of other things, but you have to have that gun on you. You are a airline mechanic. You might actually be able to tell the judge, no, Your Honor, I can't carry a gun on me because it's not safe for me to do that at work. Might get there. Airports are a big deal, right? It's as simple as that. Everybody inside the security area, and this really only applies to the security area, are at high risk for somebody just barging right on through, shooting the TSA guys on their way in to go try and take over a plane. Now, it's not like 9/11, pre-9/11 world. Those planes aren't leaving the ground. They can close those doors pretty fucking fast. But they can do, these hypothetical terrorists can do a lot of damage before they get there. And it literally is nothing more than a box that everybody's trapped inside of. So yeah, airport employees are really anti-exempt, and if you are an exempt person, well, it says this later on. If you're an exempt person, you cannot work at these locations. K-12 schools, any person other than staff shall not be required to possess any weapons on school grounds where armed security is provided. Said weapons may be surrendered to the school staff or stowed in a locker at point of entry before entry and shall be returned upon departure or may be left in the individual's vehicle. School employees are required to carry a handgun while on duty except as provided under conditional exemptions. The locker idea I had was just mail lockers. A key in it, you put your gun in, you close it, turn the key, you pull it out. It's your key, it's your gun. Can somebody theoretically break into it? Sure. Somebody can also theoretically break into Fort Knox. Probably require some heavy artillery support, but it could theoretically be done. Don't worry about those what ifs too much. By the time they get into that first locker, and I tested this, somebody will know something's up and they'll be full of holes themselves. Government buildings. Any person other than building staff shall not be required to possess any weapon in government buildings where armed security is provided. Said weapons may be surrendered to building staff before entry and shall be returned upon departure. Building staff are required to carry while on duty except as provided under conditional exemptions. So you notice this is a common theme. It's literally copy and pasted and tweaked a little bit. And it's the same thing. In both cases, armed security has to be provided. Now, airports armed security is provided, right? I know a little bit about what kind of arms they have available to them. And an airport is not actually a good place to go for a mass shooting. You won't get the score you thought you were going to get. It's as simple as that. Um, K-12 schools and government buildings, they're not always armed guards. When I was living in Oregon, our county courthouse not only did not have armed guards, they didn't even have metal detectors. Well, they had metal detectors that weren't set up, except when they expected there to be some sort of dispute that might involve a weapon. They were usually, and I remember I'm sitting there on unrelated, on some business. I see the detectors, and the person that the business was about, which I was related to, I'm thinking, why are those not set up? I know what kind of person she is. She's going to try and bring a gun in here if she can. They weren't even set up. I wouldn't have been exempt under those circumstances. Law enforcement personnel are required to retain their firearms in schools, government buildings, and other exempt locations except airports when not traveling in the custody of a suspect. That's a rule that's predated my existence. If you can think of a reason to change it, by all means, let me know. Such facilities as can be shown by good cause and reasonable prudence and caution to be unsafe for carrying of any weapons or of selective restrictions to the degree thereof required. Military and law enforcement personnel are exempt from the restrictions above on military bases. Base commanders may refuse access to the base to law enforcement personnel for cause. Okay. Such facilities as can be shown. I'm talking about airport hangars. Really, that's all. Maybe there's some more that I can't think of. But yeah, a hangar, you've got jet engines that are pulling air in. Accidents happen. You don't want to be the accident. Military and law enforcement personnel are exempt from the restrictions above on military bases. Yes, this is a government facility and a government building and a K-12 school at a military base. And no, you're not exempt. This is your base. Okay, that's it. Military commanders may refuse access to the base to law enforcement personnel for cause. This has happened before. And as a matter of fact, it happened relatively early on in my Coast Guard career. A local cop wanted to come onto the cutter about something. I have no idea what it was about. Let me switch back over to camera, guys. I have no idea what he wanted to talk to the captain about. He came up to the brow. He had his gun on him. It was really obvious. He was also kind of known. And a seaman who was standing quarterdeck watch said, "Sir, you cannot come on board with the gun." He's a cop. He's a legitimate cop, and he's actually in uniform for once. This guy usually didn't wear a uniform. Um, excuse me, I'm a peace officer. Yes, sir. You cannot come on board with a gun. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to wait right here. The seaman called up for for the OOD. The OOD came out and said, "I got this. Come on board," and they discussed whatever it was they were going to go discuss. The base commander or the ship's captain can say, "You know what? No, this cop has caused me certain issues that he's going to end up being fired over later. This cop that I'm thinking of, he had a boner for Costies. Well, he had a boner for any military personnel. But he had a boner for Costies in particular. He would write you up for breathing too hard. And he had a boner for one particular Coast Guard station in particular. When the small boat station, he really, really hated those guys. He sat outside their gate waiting for them to do something so that he could cite them. This is a little game he liked to play. The station commander could say, you know what? This guy's not allowed on base anymore. He's targeting my people. And I know he's targeting my people because we've got people that live around us that are telling us. He sits outside our gate, watching the gate, waiting to see if he can nail somebody for something. That's for cause. The cutter, on the other hand, yes, he had a problem with Costies, but he never, to my knowledge, ever targeted the cutter crew for anything in particular. He just, every once in a while, somebody would do something stupid like blow through a stop sign, even though it was right there and I knew it was fucking there because I'd gone down the street a million damn times, blowing through blowing through the stop sign. Yeah, he didn't seem to care about the cutter. He did, however, seem to care about Marines for some reason that was not appropriate. He seemed to care about Marines in a way that was inappropriate under any circumstances. I'm just saying. All right. It's been 1 hour so far, and of course, I don't have the chat to bounce off of, so there we go. So I'm going to spend the next 30-ish minutes really just ranting. I'm going to rant about Gavin No Mandate Newsom. You, sir, are the reason why we have literally all these other problems. I'm talking about Antifa. I'm talking about BLM. I'm talking about literally everything, you lying little bastard. For those of you who don't know, back in 2002, then Mayor Gavin Newsom of San Francisco was going for re-election. He was a dead shoo-in. There was nobody going to stop him from being reelected as mayor of San Francisco, en route to becoming governor of California, en route to becoming president of the United States. They still think that Gavin is going to be a president someday. In fact, his place in line has been moved up, potentially, because Governor Cuomo fucked up so bad. That's the truth. Cuomo was supposed to become Kamala's successor. And Joe is just the guy who picked the door for Kamala to get in. That's it. She's actually the president. He's just a puppet. He's a lockpick, right? Then Cuomo was supposed to take over, and then Gavin. That is their plan. 2002. Gavin is running for re-election of San Francisco mayor. And he had actual opposition. There was somebody else who was running for the mayorship. The local rag, which was backing him, in their op-ed piece said, "We set out what we intended to do. We denied Mayor Newsom a mandate." Gavin has never forgiven the entire world for that line. No mandate. Probably not helpful, the fact that I reminding him of the fact that no, you don't have a mandate from God or anybody else. About 2 months later, I remember this op-ed piece appears in I read this op-ed piece in February, April. I think it was actually May or June, when he quite illegally ordered the city clerk to start issuing marriage certificates to same-sex couples. One elected official cannot order another elected official to do anything. That is illegal. That's an absolute violation of separation of powers. I can't even believe he tried that, but it gets worse. Um, those marriage certificates were challenged in court for their legality. Flag on the play. I don't care what you think about it. All right. I remember thinking back then, I don't care about these uh, marriage certificates. They're whatever. All right. It's all a money thing. Those marriage certificates were challenged in court. The city lost that challenge. Or, excuse me, the city won that challenge. That is when Proposition 22 came along. For those of you that don't remember, California Prop 22 was the original ban on same-sex marriage. I don't care what you think about me now. I voted no. All I could see here was those goddamn Mormons telling us telling us what our laws are going to be. I'm not okay with this. Go back to Utah. And I remember saying something like this at the same bar where the pepper spray thing happened. Well, I just didn't really care that much. Prop 22 passed anyways. Oh, really? There was that much support? Wow. I must have read those tea leaves wrong. I also remember saying something about reading the tea leaves wrong. And that's okay. It passed. I didn't really like it. Oh well. We'll deal with that later. Gavin and his backers did the absolute worst possible thing under these circumstances. They got it. Uh, uh, they got a judicial order, an injunction to invalidate an election. Now, granted, it's a ballot measure, and I'm really dismissive of ballot measures. There's good law, and then there's ballot law. If you can't, if it's not good law, it will not pass the legislature. So you get it in through a ballot measure instead. Just saying. But to tell the people that no, you don't have a voice in your government, you don't have a voice in your legislature, all right? Don't, you can be taxed, but you cannot be represented in any way, shape, or form. That's not acceptable. It was taxation without representation, all right? You don't get a voice in how you're going to be ruled. I'm going to make the rules and you're going to obey them. That's how the American Revolution started. We didn't want really representation. We wanted to have a say in it, or at least to understand why these taxes are being raised. We didn't. The worst part is Franklin et al., who were the ones objecting to these taxes, Franklin in particular, didn't object to the taxes. He wanted to know how this money was being used. What are my tax dollars going towards? My tax pounds, excuse me, going towards. The representatives sent to London to find out and to ask these questions were thrown in the Old Bailey. Just thrown in. That's it. They had just gotten off the ship, and I think they may have taken rooms at an inn when they were arrested and thrown in the Old Bailey for treason, for asking why. Okay. The grounds was constitutionality. Well, there's actually nothing in the California Constitution that really says anything about marriage. There's there is a clause that says an equality clause, but it didn't really cover this kind of situation. Why go there? I remember this injunction thing is coming down the ways, and I thought, yeah, that's par for the course. They're going to get it reversed with a later ballot measure. Do it the right way. No, they didn't do that. They went in front of His Honor, um, Bond. Bond Walker. That was his name. They went in front of Von Walker, and they really went to some strange lengths. Why appeal in a court? It's not San Francisco, it's not Sacramento, it's not Los Angeles. No, it's another county where there isn't a real concentration of interest in this issue. It's not a gay county, right? It's not a rainbow county. That got a lot of people's attention, but not enough. Justice Walker ruled that this was unconstitutional, and that just blew everything up. Even people that had voted no on 2-2 were incensed to be told that people have no voice in their government. And even when they have a voice, or make their voices heard, they're told they have no voice. No, you people are too stupid to know how your lives need to, or your government needs to be run. We're going to tell you how to do it. No. That is why I voted in favor of Prop 8. This was literally telling San Francisco that no, you're no more my masters than those assholes out of Utah. I don't have a king, and it sure as hell ain't Gavin Newsom. It gets worse. That was appealed on the same grounds. And also, this time, they made it very explicitly clear that this is a constitutional amendment on top of a ban. And it got reversed on constitutionality. Oh, well, that seems legit. It's very clear who rules California. 2 months after His Honor, Walker, ruled on this case, well, something very interesting. About 6 months before he was due to rule, questions started being asked about Justice Walker's personal life and whether or not he had an interest in the laws or the case that he was ruling on. Did he have a conflict of interest? Did he have an interest in his own ruling? Was there cash involved? 2 months after he ruled that this was also unconstitutional, Justice Walker filed a marriage certificate with his county clerk for him and his husband. Oh, he had an absolute interest in his ruling, and although I'll never prove it, and neither will anybody else, I'm sure, by now, I believe he reached out to the organization and said, hey, if you can get it on my bench, I will rule a specific way. And it doesn't matter what the law says. I will rule a specific way. That's my theory, is he reached out to them, not they reached out to him. Where was I going with this little bit of rant? Gavin Newsom started this crisis we're in because he was denied a mandate. He used this illegal order to the county clerk that you will start processing these not actually legal marriage certificates, and pushed the agenda forward. Everything else has been an absolute avalanche of one shitstorm after another. And it's not been one avalanche, it's been one avalanche that becomes five more, all from that one illegal order. Gavin Newsom can never, ever be allowed to be president of the United States. He shouldn't even be allowed to be governor of California. He should be in prison for suborning uh, judicial misconduct in the cell literally right next to Walker. Ironically enough, Justice Walker's husband, scot free. He wasn't the judge that ruled in it, even if he had everything to do with all of this. All right, he didn't issue any orders. A conspiracy does require some sort of active participation. Yeah, that guy couldn't actively participate. It's as simple as that. Unless he was a messenger. And even then, do you really want to go there for something pretty small fry? I don't. It's not worth it. Walker belongs in prison. Um, Gavin belongs in prison. Those two absolutely belong in prison. Um, he also, Gavin that is, has encouraged the progressive elements of the DNC to allow riots when it's convenient to the agenda, not when it's about good or bad law. He has actually ordered police not to engage in suppressing riots when it's Antifa and BLM. When it's anybody else, he's ordered the police to go down there and round up everybody if they can. For those of you that remember the story about Brent and his gun, Highway Patrol actually did take a highway patrolman apparently, did take Brent's gun. But they were all down there because the mayor of San Francisco, Gavin Newsom, ordered the guns taken. He gave the order that sent the police down to break up this open carry rally. Even I didn't realize that at the time. It was 2017, 2016, something around there when Brent told me about that part. Oh, the same guy that I've been calling no mandate for the last few years uh, is the one that ordered the cops come down like a Gestapo and grab anybody they could and take anything they could. Oh, okay. Mindsets grouping, really. It would be much more appropriate. Um, yeah, I guess it makes a whole lot of sense. The last thing on earth you can ever trust now is a progressive. Flag on the play. I actually, as a general rule, would trust a blue dog Dem. It's the truth. Um, I might actually vote for a blue dog Dem. Blue dog Dem is the conservative and sometimes extremely conservative Democrats. Like, kind of scary conservative Democrats. They vote no on abortion, vote no on gun control. They also have a tendency to vote yes on some things that they shouldn't be voting yes on, or no when they shouldn't be voting no. But I would actually trust them. But I cannot, under any circumstances, trust a progressive. They've proven that they are incapable of honesty. They're not. It's some sort of weird mental block. They can't do it. They cannot address a situation honestly. They have, even when the truth would help them. Here's the truth: people die by guns. All right? You want to get a little more truth? About 1,000 people are lives are criminally terminated by a second party by guns every year. It's roughly the truth. I know my number's a little on the high side. Um, Comparing that to, say, the UK, we're doing pretty good. About 1,000 to 600 for a population of 350-ish million versus 35 million, 33 million, something like that. We're actually doing pretty good. You could just as easily go with that 1,000 number and be really honest about it. And they just can't do it. They have to lie even when the truth would work just as well. It's like the Garrick condition. For those of you that don't know, Garrick was the spy from Deep Space Nine. His former supervisor, Tam, something like that, described Garrick, good old Garrick. Why lie or why tell the truth when a lie will work just as well? Aaron is his real first name or something like that. Well, it's worse. A Democrat will lie when the truth would work so much better. Excuse me. A progressive will lie when the truth would work so much better. All right. And I'm going to close this up with actually a rant towards some other conservatives, which I'm really not. I'm still a moderate, but it has been suggested that conservatives can no longer play nice or play by rules. No. You have, more so than ever, you have to play by the rules. You have to play by the honest rules. The thing that's hurting the progressives more and more every day is the fact that they got caught lying and cheating and taking lollipops from little kids and kicking puppies. All right? To suggest that you can play with any lower a standard is extremely dangerous per se. You have to keep to those absolutely highest possible standards. And I've seen some in the conservative communities, who are not playing by those highest possible standards, especially in reference to COVID and election audits. The truth shall set you free each and every time. And every time you tell one little lie, one more card on that house, that when it falls, it will all fall in. The conservatives and moderates at least are building the house mostly out of corrugated boxes rather than playing cards. When the progressives' house falls in, the whole thing is going to collapse. Right? Every single lie is going to come out. What happened during the election is going to come out. And they're going to try to cover it up with, well, we didn't know. Or, well, we didn't realize this was a problem. We're all going to see past that too. As COVID comes out, well, we didn't know that, or best practices said, or this or that, or something else. No, we all knew you were lying. Right? The people that supported the restrictions, that, 14 days to flatten the curve. And he even thought, no, you mean 2 months to flatten the curve. No, you've been lying ever since. March, April, May, June. At least by July 2012, I knew something really smelled here. Something was very, very wrong. September is about the time when I started saying, no, this is all bullshit. You lie, your feet sink, and Jesus hates your ass. Growing up, that phrase was when I knew Dad was really mad, because we were actually in trouble. And since then, I've found out a little bit better what that means and how mad he really was. That was the last words he said to somebody once. Dad turned around and walked away. That night, Dad got woke up. Hey, Doc, there's a Marine and he's sick. Oh, fuck's sake, it's 3 a.m. Okay, I'm getting up. I'm going to come check out what's going on. Dad was halfway across the camp when a grenade went off. And the Marines started firing into the jungle. But the same guy that Dad had said, you lie, your feet stink, and Jesus hates your ass, was still dead. One guy, the corpsman, came out and said it in front of everybody. And from that moment on, everybody knew it was real. This guy lies, his feet stink, and Jesus hates his ass. And don't worry about it, Doc. We've got it under control for you. To the entire DNC, you lie, your feet stink, and Jesus hates your ass, and just be thankful I wasn't a Marine or a Navy corpsman. I wasn't. I can't go there. I'm not allowed. Irony. Good for you. I'm the one that'll call you out on it. I'm just not allowed to do it. We all know by now. We know what really happened on 6th January, right? With the battering rams specifically. Before this was even a big thing, I thought, gee, she's wearing all black and she's wearing a pink knit cover. No, it couldn't be that. No way that they would be that brazen and obvious about it. Oh, yeah, she was actually that brazen and obvious, because it turns out she was surrounded by others who were there with the exact same thought. Now, whether she was their leader or not, they were there for that reason specifically. We all know about how the reporter and the protester broke in, right? And he made the mistake of not deleting part of that video. We all know about it. We all know about how folds don't actually affect ballots. That's not the way it works, Tim. Keep lying to us, and you will be facing the wrath of your own bad decisions. Those of you that say, now that the enemy is lying and cheating, Jesus lies, their feet stinking, Jesus hates their ass so much, we've got to play by the same rules. No. This is now the time to play by the even higher standards. I cannot live up to some of those standards from time to time, right? Because I remember events of history the way I remember the events of history. The bar story, right? I remember it the way I remember it. I remember what I saw the way I saw it. That doesn't mean dumbass didn't have a knife. It means I never saw the knife. Right? John never saw the knife. Well, maybe John was too busy watching his eyes, because, there's that old thing. Watch the eyes. That'll tell you what they're really playing. No. You watch their hands and look to see where they're going. I couldn't see his hands. I remember that was part of the problem. John's in my way. I can't see his hands. I saw his shoulders shrug. Sorry, his head didn't move. He just shrugged his shoulders. And that's when I knew he was about to do something. And that was the end of that discussion. But did I not see that knife? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I just don't remember it. Maybe he dropped the knife as John's twisting around like this, thinking, what the hell just happened? Wasn't that long, but I remember he ducked or something, because I had just sprayed dumbass maybe a million fucking things all at the same time. Maybe I don't remember what I thought I remembered. Right? You got to be sure that you remember exactly what you really remember the way it really happened. Tell one lie, and you're going to be in the same spot the progressives are in, and that they put themselves in. All right. It's been an hour and 35 minutes. This is a premiere, and I am rambling a lot. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Be ready to evacuate in 15 minutes. Do what you got to do to get the guns and armor that you need. And contrary to my last rant, if you have to tell a lie and say that you're getting car repairs, do that. Right? But don't tell a lie when it's actually about, especially about a policy matter. Don't lie about a policy matter of all things. Never trust a progressive. They can only lie. They're not capable of telling the truth. I don't think they're capable of understanding the truth. And as Papa Carey loves to say, if they had any shame, they wouldn't be acting the way they do. Remember, assault weapon has only one real definition, one sustainable definition. Detachable magazine fed, burst and or automatic fire capable, like the MAT-49, Banker Jackhammer. Ooh, kind of an interesting pair of selections there, doesn't it? Has nothing to do with caliber size, has nothing to do with any other features. Jesus Christ, I'm going to say it twice. Caliber. The closest thing you can do is, what is a pistol? And even that's kind of, that one's kind of shaky. And otherwise, keep calm and manage to carry on.